Alright, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I like to give all the honor, the praise, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are well. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered abroad. Alright, this is Brother Barbazal here with a lesson. Lord willing, it's edifying, right? So, just gonna go into a lesson through the spirit, just pretty much going into what's going on in DC and Trump pretty much federalizing DC, which is, it's really martial law, right? And we understand that during the end times, martial law is going to be one of the things that take place, all right? And what Trump is wanted to do, or one of his plans that it looks like is he wants to, pretty much scatter, martial law throughout, the cities that's known for the, the most crime or whatever, right? New York, LA, Baltimore, all right, these different cities, all right, and pretty much, that's his plan. All right, we're gonna go into the article. All right, and we're gonna get a few precepts, right? So this is theguardian.com, and the heading says Washington D.C. National Guard begins deploying on D.C. streets after Trump police takeover. Troops start appearing in the nation's capital on Tuesday night as presidents move widely condemned. The Washington, D.C. National Guard will begin deploying on the city's streets on Tuesday night, a day after Donald Trump ordered their arrival and took control of the city's police force, calling Washington, D.C. a lawless city, despite official crime statistics saying otherwise. A White House official confirmed, yeah. And that's the whole thing, calling Washington, D.C. a lawless city when, as it seems, statistically, all right, the crime has been going down, right? So pretty much, even though the crime is going down, it's going into, historic lows, right? Trump still felt the need to, deploy the National Guard, all right, which it could be, for several reasons, right? To take distractions off certain things like, the Epstein files, right? To flex his muscle. And or simply, just because, Esau about to come with that great wrath, and when all hell break loose, all right, he's going to want to have that, National Guard ready, right? With everything going on, right? As we can see, we're moving to a cashless society, the dollar collapsing, the grid shutting down. Right, that's going to be one of Esau's way to establish order, right, through the National Guard. All right, it says the National Guard is expected to begin being on the street starting tonight. Defense officials said a small number of the roughly 800 Guard members planned for the mission had already been mobilized Tuesday afternoon, with more expected to arrive in the coming days. About 850 officers and agents took part in a massive law enforcement surge across Washington, D.C. on Monday night and made nearly 24 arrests, the White House has said. The violent crime rate in Washington, D.C. is at a 30-year low. Yeah, and it's at a 30-year low, not because of, what Trump did. All right, it's just been declining. All right, which more and more we're seeing, Trump, being that guy that's really, willing to take it there, put that great wrath down, right? Make those draconian laws, just coming up against this place, all right, you could be persecuted for that, right? And we know that, eventually Esau, he gonna come after the prophets. All right. And, eventually, we won't be out on the highways and hedges. All right. Due to that, right? It's going, the famine of the word, it's another prophecy that has to happen. All right. So that's enough for the article. We'll go to the scripture. So 2nd Esdras 15:14, it says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." Yeah, kind. So this is pretty much going into a civil war, which this place is due for a civil war. All right, and that's what's gonna happen, during the time of Jacob's trouble. All right, people are going to be going against each other for all different types of reasons. All right. Verse 16, it says, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, in the course of their actions still stand in their power." Yeah, kind. And it's plenty, and this is a divided country. Even though, you got certain people that's for Trump and what he's doing. You got people that's against Trump. All right, you got people that's against, the police, right? The politicians, lawyers, judges. All right. These are the type of people that'll be targeted, during this time, right? It says in the court, it says they shall not regard their kings nor princes, right? Because they will pretty much represent, the kings or princes during this time, right? "And the course of their actions shall stand in their power." All right, and it says, verse 17, "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able," right? And that's going to happen when, martial law, is fully established, right? You ain't going to be able to, freely travel, right? In order to travel, it's going to be restricted. All right, and in order for you to, to go to one place and another, you're gonna need something, in order to travel, right? You're gonna need your specific credentials. All right, or you're gonna need something to identify yourself, in order to travel. And what's that gonna be? It's gonna be that CHIP. All right. The CHIP is going to be the way. All right, for the CHIP is going to be the way for people to come back into society, right? The answer, so to speak, for all the hell to go away, for your life to be back, the conveniences, because it's going to be a shutdown of everything, right? And Esau is gonna make it be, that answer be the MOTB, right? Order ab chaos, right? Order out of chaos. All right. And that's gonna be, how Esau, ultimately pushes, his agenda, which is to get which is to implement the NWO, all right, which the CHIP, all right, the RFID chip, right? That's going to be used to control and track and identify, the people. All right, Revelation 12:12, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them, both in the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time." You see? So, we know that, Esau's coming with that great wrath, and, Trump, he's the face of it right now, man. All right. And Trump has been, he's been making moves, man. All right. Coming in as that, that type of force, that these different elites is going to use to push what's going to happen. All right. And ultimately, this is all the Lord, because this is all, the Lord's doing. All right. So this is 1 Thessalonians 5:1. "But at the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I run unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." You see? So, This is pretty much Esau just pretty much putting everything together, right? He already got having the an excuse to justify, all right, putting the National Guard everywhere in these different cities, spreading them out. All right, so when all hell break loose, he can ready to bring forth that wrath, right? And it's gonna come suddenly, because all these people care about is if they able to go to work, eat they fast food, all right, paying all these expensive bills, all right, things like that, all right, and not really paying attention to what's going on. So that's why that day is going to overtake them as a thief, all right, and people are going to bug the hell out, man, because they're distracted, right? They're not actually taking heed to what's going on and try to prepare themselves the correct way. All right, so these people are gonna lose their minds, man. All right, but we're not gonna be overtaken of those times, man. All right, because we're keeping watch. We're known as the Watchmen. All right, and we're doing what we can, to set up that spiritual hedge. And Lord willing, the Lord can deal with us, right? And the Lord can give us that protective hedge, all right, and keep us and preserve us during that time, so we can receive that salvation, through the chariots of the Lord. All right, but that'll conclude the lesson. All right, so Lord willing, it was edifying. So with that, I'd like to give all the honor, praise, and glory unto Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah Bahashem, Barak HaKodash. Shalom.